What is Decker-Vein's tendinitis, and how do you know if you really have it? My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist. And if you're looking up Decker-Vein's tendinitis, you happen to be on my video, you've probably done a little bit of research, I'm going to assume. So I'm just going to share a little bit from my perspective as a hand therapist and kind of talk to you about how you can really know for sure if this is something that's irritating you or not, right? So Decker-Vein's tendinitis is a specific irritation to a tendon in this particular area. It's right here. If you feel, you go from your thumb and you slide it all the way down to the side of it, you're going to feel this little nub, this little knob, right? That is a piece of bone from your forearm bone, and you have two tendons that kind of pass right by there. It's called your abductor pollicis longus for all of my people who are really into anatomy, and also your extensor pollicis brevis. So basically that tendon, there's one long one and then there's a little one, and basically what happens is every single time you bring your thumb out to the side and also up, like as if you're going to grab something, that tendon is being a little bit irritated right at the wrist level. And so how do you know, like that's just what Decker-Vein's tendinitis is called. If you have it at that specific area, then you have Decker-Vein's tendinitis. So tendinitis is pretty much just an irritation. You have to imagine something is like constantly rubbing, and it's kind of like you're constantly rubbing and you're chafing the inside of that thumb wrist area. That's like a tendinitis. And you can have a tendinitis pretty much anywhere in your body because that's where the muscle connects to the tendon, and that's what allows you to move your joints, right? To allow you to move your thumb out to a certain way, and because that tendon crosses your wrist position in terms of when and why you might have pain, right? So that is essentially Decker-Vein's tendinitis. You can determine that you have it based off of the kind of pain you have, the location where you have it, and then what we do is we do what's called a clinical test. So usually Decker-Vein's tendinitis happens when you're doing something. If you just have pain just sitting here doing nothing, that's not Decker-Vein's tendinitis. Decker-Vein's tendinitis happens when you go to reach for something. So basically you open your thumb and you have to move your wrist a little bit, right? And when you go to grab something, that tendon gets stretched, and sometimes your wrist moves when you go to grab something, right? If you're grabbing something heavy, your wrist moves, and so it's using those tendons, it's using those muscles, and it's that movement that then causes you a sharpness of pain. It's very sharp. It's like someone just stabbing you right there, and it kind of causes you to be like, and makes you feel like you're weak because that instant pain makes you feel weak. That's what pain can do. But it's usually a sharpness, and then as soon as you let it go, then there's kind of like a dullness that kind of like hangs around a little bit because it just got irritated. So that's number one. Location is going to be number two in terms of like knowing that, hey, this is actually Decker-Vein's tendinitis because it's those two specific tendons, or it's maybe something else, right? So remember that bony prominence you have? Usually if you touch that part right there and you press hard, that's usually what a therapist will do or your doctor will do to determine, like, is it that particular tendon? So kind of press pretty hard there, and if it's irritated or you have some tenderness to it, you might have Decker-Vein's tendinitis. So location is really key. If you're like, oh, I have pain everywhere and I have pain here and there, you might have other things going on, which is why sometimes it's really important to go to a professional to help you determine, like, hey, what's really going on and why you have this particular problem in the first place. Usually Decker-Vein's tendinitis kind of comes over a period of time because, again, it's like that chafing, it's like that irritation, and it gets irritated on the inside. Now, some people might get Decker-Vein's tendinitis if they fall or something hits them right on that sweet spot, and then there's an inflammation, swelling, scarring that develops, and you really can't do anything about that. But I mean, you can, but something fell on you, so now we know exactly that's the thing that caused it. But most people get tendinitis over a period of time that kind of got irritated, right? So pain location and then clinical testing. So one of the clinical tests is to press on it. Another clinical test is to actually put your thumb in your palm and then go sharply down to the side. So then it's really going to stretch that. You don't have to do that to yourself if putting your thumb in there already hurts. Why cause more pain? You might have quervain tendinitis there. So it's a rather sharp movement. That's just one of the tests. It's very common to test if you have quervain tendinitis. That's what your therapist would do. That's what your doctor will do. But usually when you go to a professional, they're going to also rule other things out. To make sure, hey, this is actually a quervain tendinitis, because if you don't really have quervain tendinitis, or you have quervain tendinitis with other things, then you want to rule in and rule out other stuff that's going on so that you can actually treat it well and get rid of it completely. So that's how you know that, hey, I have quervain tendinitis. So then it becomes like, yes, I'm going to make a whole separate video on how you can treat it because it's a little bit longer, but I want to encourage you to think about like what is causing that type of tendinitis, because when you know what's causing it, that's one way of helping you to treat it and make sure you can get rid of it. Not just get rid of it for good, but if it were to come back, because once you have a tendinitis, sometimes your body type might be, prone to some reoccurrence, right? So I tend to have tendinitis in my elbow. And right now I have a reoccurrence because I was doing something really heavy and it kind of irritated it. But because I know how to fix it, I'm not going to ignore it. I can fix it relatively fast, even though I've already ignored it for 2 weeks. So never mind. Let's move on. So what kind of causes it? The way I see it, if you look on the internet, like what causes tendinitis, they're going to blame everything. Like they're going to blame work, they're going to blame gardening, they're going to blame sports, like racket sports and things like that. But really at the end of the day, we are meant to use our hands, we're meant to use our arms, and these are supposed to last us the longevity of our life, and in a way that is not painful and doesn't, you don't need to have surgery every other week, right? So when you think about causes, I always talk about, and I talk to my patients about this and my students too, like I always look at people's body types when I'm working with them. Some people are very hypermobile, or I call them loosey-goosey, and some people are stiff as a board, and I call them, stiff as a board, right? And it has to do with our ligaments hold our bones together, and that's what helps us to have stability when we move. Some people, their ligaments are looser than others. So then what happens is your muscles are required to hold your body together. So a hypermobile person is someone whose big knuckles can get stretched all the way down. Just because you feel tight doesn't mean your knuckle doesn't naturally move in that direction. I can actually touch my thumb to my palm. I'm not going to do it. It's a little trick, but it irritates my thumb, so I won't do it. But I am very hypermobile. Look at my elbows. My elbows go beyond 0. My knees hyperextend. They go beyond 0. So when I'm looking at someone's body type, sometimes our body types is what causes or tend to cause us to have a tendency towards tendinitis, and quervain tendinitis is no different. So what happens is when you get to the root cause, and one of the root causes is just figuring out what your body type is, it's going to allow you to know how to properly treat quervain tendinitis so you can get rid of it for good. Majority of the time, it has to do with an imbalance of how your muscles work. So it's not that you're not strong. I work with a lot of people here of all ages that come in with hand and arm problems, and they're very strong, but their strength is only balanced out by the smaller, weaker muscles. So sometimes you can be really, really strong and have pain, aches and pains, and develop tendinitis because your strong muscles are too strong, and your smaller muscles that are supposed to have a certain amount of strength to support the big muscles are now getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and they're your supporting muscles. Sometimes it's about finding out which muscles they are so you can fix it, and you can fix it correctly, and you can fix it fast. Quervain tendinitis is very curable. It does not take that long. I think we have a tendency to drag it out when we're just throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks, right? You are meant to use your body and you're meant to use your hands. So quervain tendinitis, just, understand what it is, understand why you have it, and then let's get to fixing it, and that's going to be in my next video. All right, if you have quervain tendinitis, yes, these videos are meant to help you just get started. These videos are meant to help you have an understanding of it, so when you go to your doctor, when you go to your therapist, you're going to know what works and what doesn't work. Okay, but that doesn't mean like you shouldn't go to a professional, and make sure that you are, getting the best help and getting it fast. Like I was working with a young lady. She had quervains. In the evaluation, we found out like a lot of her pain has to do with the quervain tendinitis. She's a new mom. She's very hypermobile to begin with, and then she's now postpartum, right? She's had her baby, and so the hormones kind of make you even more hypermobile. But she also has a different component, like a little bit of nerve tension. There's other shoulder issues that are now, coming into play. So, don't think that quervains is just on its own sometimes. If you've tried some stuff on your own and you're not really getting the results, or you're just not really sure how to progress, it might be worth it for you to find a healthcare professional who can help you. My name is Huang. I'm the owner of Hands-On Therapy Services in Miami, Florida. If you're in Miami, hit me up. My links are below. If you want to work with me from a telehealth perspective, me and my team can help you. So, just links below if you need our help. Thanks.